All right, welcome in. AJ, let's talk sports. Hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. This is our first month in for the UFC fights. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends and family, tell everybody, like, share, comment. If you want to be part of the show, let me know. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Let me hear it. Hey, let's go, AJ. You're awesome. All right, let's go. So UFC news before we get into UFC Fight Night. We'll get into it here in a second. Check out Vitor Belfort. So UFC is going to be putting Vitor Belfort in the Hall of Fame. He's from the Black Zillions, obviously from Brazil. He's a middleweight, born April 1st, 1977, nicknamed the Phenom. Liked him because he was a southpaw, left-handed because that's what your boy is. 74-inch reach. Taking a look at his last fight, May 12th. Almost exactly, 7 years to the day. Pretty much probably right when it's probably 7 years to the day when they announced that he was going to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, which is pretty sweet. Props to him. He lost it to Lyoto Machida in the second round by knockout at UFC 224. And that was Nunes versus Pennington. But he did get his last win was against Nate the Great Marquardt back in 2017 of June 3rd by unanimous decision at UFC 212. And Aldo was on that fight card versus Holloway, if you remember that. So props to Vitor Belfort. This is just talked about out of Montreal. They talked about this. He was 26 and 14. He began his career back in 1996. He entered the sport at 19 years old as a Brazilian, which is phenomenal back in the day. Later that year, he suffered the first loss of his career in a heavyweight number one contender fight against legendary two-weight champion Randy Couture. So he fought in all different classes, from middleweight all the way up to heavyweight. Back in 2013, he put together arguably the greatest year of his career by knocking out Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, and Dan Henderson in a span of 11 months. Not even in a calendar year, knocks all three of those dudes out. The guy was a freaking stud. And welcome to the UFC Hall of Fame, Mr. Belfort. All right, so next. Taking it to Sean Brady. Sean Brady calls out Ian Garry for the number one contender spot. And I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on this. A lot going on in the UFC and fights so far this summer, which I'm very excited, and we'll get to that in the next topic. But who is going to be fighting? Bilal losing, JDM getting the win and the championship at welterweight division. So that opens up with Sean Brady and Ian Garry. Do you think Ian Garry deserves a title shot right away? Because he didn't finish. For me, he didn't finish the fight. Didn't finish. It goes all 5 rounds in his last fight, and he didn't get the win. I think he possibly could have in the second round, but he didn't get it. Sean Brady calls him out, which I think this is a really smart move for Sean Brady. And Sean Brady just coming off of a win and a finish. And I think this will be a really good matchup for him stylistically, because Ian Garry is more of a stand-up guy. Granted, he is getting better on the ground, and he showed that. But Sean Brady, if he gets a hold of Ian Garry, I don't think he will get back up to his feet. Just saying. Sean Brady by ground and pound will get the win if that fight ever happens. All right. So now I want to go into some UFC picks for the summer. UFC, not picks, but UFC fights that you want to look at in the summer at UFC 316. Coming here soon. I always pronounce his name wrong, so I'm just going to say Merab versus Sean O'Malley, and this is their second bout at bantamweight title shot. Who do you have in that? UFC 317, the vacant lightweight championship, because the one dude, Islam, he vacated it to move the fight, and we don't know yet. As of right now, on Thursday, I haven't heard anything. My sources haven't heard anything, but as of right now, there's not a fight going up with JDM yet, with Jack Della Maddalena. But it's supposedly, all roads lead to Islam Makhachev, The reason why Islam vacated, there has to be a reason behind this, but there hasn't a date. According to my sources, I haven't heard anything yet for a specific date and time for this fight. But anyway, UFC 317, Ilia Topuria gets his shot against Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title. I don't have the dates on this. I just saw the picture. I honestly screenshot the picture and I'm looking at it. So UFC 318, Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, and this is the third title fight for the BMF title, and I think Dustin Poirier, this is his last fight. So this is his going away fight. I believe it will be in Louisiana, but I don't know yet. I'm sure you guys do. UFC 319, Dricus Duplessis, I call him Dupussy, versus Khamzat Chimaev, because he beat my boy Sean, I can't even think right now. Strickland. Sean Strickland is one of my favorite fighters right now. But in the middleweight, Khamzat Chimaev versus Duplessis at UFC 319. What do you think that's going to look like? I think Chimaev might destroy this dude. Khamzat is a freaking stud, and he's a freaking beast, and I think he's going to take it. All right. Now, we got the UFC news up to date. Taking a walk back to last week. Muhammad at UFC 315 versus Della Maddalena. We already know what happens. So what I usually do, I've been told not to tell you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I do three-leg parlays all across the board. And sometimes I might do a 5-leg. But at the end of that 3-legger, all the way across the board in the fight card, I do one huge full main card. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Out of 12 fights, I put $5 on a 12-legger. Could have paid out almost 10 grand, which would have been nice. But Katona, the first freaking fight, I thought Brad was going to kick Canada off with a bang, and he doesn't. He loses, gets destroyed, by the way. Hey, Brad, get her. All right, so he loses. I'm not going to go through the entire fight, but here's the performance of the night with Baralt versus Bruno Silva, which was nice. Baralt gets a big win. I saw that, and he gets a knockout. Sterling did a pretty good job. I think he could have done a little bit more against Erslan, but Erslan's pretty tough. Sterling was hitting him with some good shots. The Kudaleba fight, Bukauskas, the Lithuanian versus Moldova, that was a split decision that should have went to Ian Kudaleba. Because if you watch that fight, Kudaleba was destroying the dude. Bukauskas was on his defense the whole entire fight. And I don't know, that was just, the judges screwed Kudaleba on that one. Now, Jusa Davicius, am I saying that right? Awesome win. She gets the performance of the night, sub of the night, against Jessica Andrade in the first round at 2:40 left in a sub. So I want to tell you how my win was. But I had Radke against Mike Malott, and I'll tell you what, Mike Malott is a freaking beast, bro, at welterweight. 26-second knockout, just destroyed Radke. He was just picking him apart. On the ground, in the stand-up, Radke couldn't do anything. Poor Charles, kicked him out of Canada. I got all kinds of people saying on Instagram, because I picked Radke, and they're all hating on me bad. So that was just the prelims. I didn't watch the thing, because I was not going to pay $80 or whatever to watch this fight by myself. So Saint Denis gets the win. I got that. I had Grasso, Natalia the Beautiful Silva, that's who I call her. If she's wanting to date anybody, look at this dude, because I'm studly. And then Jose Aldo over in Sahabi, got the Canadian, gets the win there. And then Shevchenko, I had her, and then I had Bilal. But the fight of the night goes to Jack Della Maddalena, and that was just a vicious pounding against Bilal. Did you see his lip that was all cut off? I guess part of his lip fell onto the octagon. It was freaking crazy. But anyways, I went 6-6. We're going to start taking account for what my bets go. This was pretty much a 50-50 draw. Go 6-6 for the whole entire card for UFC 315. All right. Now we're going to do the UFC Fight Night Pick'em show for May 17th, Saturday at the UFC Apex in Vegas. Burns versus Morales. And I've been researching this. I usually don't. People that know me, I don't research. I just go off the cuff. But I did a little bit of researching yesterday. I don't have really anything to like supernatural to tell you guys on these fights. But I do want to talk when I get to the Burns fight. We'll get to that in a second. I don't even want to go crazy. We're just going to do, if you want to do a 5-leg parlay on my picks, please go ahead. All right? And we'll talk about my main, well, we'll just go ahead. I'm picking, real quick, Tisha, United States over Brazil. Tisha Pennington, women's strawweight, starting the match off. And the main card starts at 7, by the way. I think the prelims are going to be pretty early at 4 o'clock, so that's nice. I love it when the UFC does the fights like this. It's really nice. So Tisha Pennington is going to get the win. Park versus Hernandez. Give me Hernandez. Reed versus Gomez. I'm going with a plus 425. One of my big-time dogs. I got 2 of them in this. Elise Reed at the women's strawweight. Big dog at plus 425. She gets the dub. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. That's just heart, not mind. Santos versus Lisboa. Brazil versus Brazil. Minus 166 for Luana and at plus 140 for Lisboa. Give me Santos because she's prettier. All right. Del Valle versus Matthews. American. Matthews over the Cuban. Gordon versus Moises. The United States, this is a pick'ems. Minus 112 and a minus 108. Gordon is a minus 112. Give me United States. Gabe Green versus Mateus Camilo. Camilo is coming off of, I don't even know. I'm trying to look for his stats. I just try to find it on ESPN. There's no stats for him. So he's coming off of some like Victor or whatever he's coming from. I don't know where he's coming from. So Gabe Green, hopefully he done his research and watched some video on him. But Gabe Green gets the win in the lightweight. Taking out the prelims. Going into the main card. Who's ready for this? Come get some. In the middleweight fight, Dustin Stolfus, the American versus Ruzibov, Uzbekistan. Just call him Nursultan. We're going with Dustin, and we're going to take a look at him. 16-6 so far. Let's take a look at his record. Now, he beat Baralt, and Baralt just did a very good job with a knockout just last week. And Stolfus beat him last matchup back in November 2024 by knockout. So what's it tell you about Stolfus? I don't know, but he's going to win. That's all I got to say. And let's take a look at his stats. Turned pro back in 2014. 3 wins by knockout, 6 by sub. One of the only fighters, one of 3, I think, to get a twister inside the octagon. He's won 2 of his last 3. Lone pre-UFC defeat was back in March of 2015. A long time ago. And it's not going to happen anytime soon. He's going to get the dub. Moving on. Picking Stolfus and the American for the middleweight. Now we're going to Youssef versus Santos. Myron Santos, the Brazilian, coming off of the Ultimate Fighter from last year, nicknamed the Legend, just won against Marshall, beat Offley in the title championship for the Ultimate Fighter, and he hasn't lost since coming into the UFC. He's very, very fast. Smart, intelligent, technical fighter. I love watching him. Off of Team Grosso, tough Ultimate Fighter 32. And guess what, my friends? The Ultimate Fighter 33 is dropping here in the next week or so. Who's ready for that? I am, yeah! All right, turned pro back in 2019. 8 wins by KO. 4 first-round finishes. And on 4-fight winning streak so far, Myron Santos is going to get the win, and he's going to roll all over the Nigerian Youssef in the lightweight fight. Almost I'd say first-round knockout to second-round knockout, depending on if Santos wants to be technical, because he's going to counter. You might actually see that counter drop back right, snap jab, right off the whip. Bah! Drops him with the little check hook. Drops him. I'm calling it. Knockoff check hook. Now, Rodolfo Balado versus Paul Craig. Now, this is tough. This is really tough for me, Brazil versus Scotland. Now, Paul Craig is fighting for his UFC life right now. He's on a 3-loss, back-to-back losses. I almost give him a little but I'm not going to yet. Give me Paul Craig at a plus 390. Bear Jew. Is that how you say it? Bear Jew? Taking a look at his last fight, we just talked about how he lost all 3 fights in a row. Back in November, he lost to Bo Nickel, and Bo Nickel did not look good the couple weeks ago. Baralo beats him by knockout. He loses to Allen by a sub back in November 23. When's the last time Paul Craig actually won a fight? I'll tell you. July 22nd of 2023 against Muniz. In the second round, he gets a KO with 4:40 left in the fight. At the 4:40 mark. Almost at the end of the second round. Then he loses to Walker. Loses to Ozdemir. And when did he win before that? Back in 2022. So coming all the way back to 2022, Paul Craig has only won 2 times in like 3 years. Over 3 years. That's not even a win a year. He's fighting for his life, and I think he's going to come out tenacious. But Bellato is a tough opponent at the light heavyweight match. And it's going to be really tough. He's at a minus 520 right now. Minus 520 to win. And I don't want to go against my boy Paul Craig. Let's get him the win. Now we're going to go into the main event of the evening. Gilbert Burns taking on Michael Morales. And this is, I told you I had 2 dogs in this fight. And this is the one. If you want to take a look at Gilbert Burns, Durinho is his nickname. And you want to take a look at Gilbert Burns' fight history. Dude has fought freaking madmen. I don't know why. Whoever's doing the picks for Gilbert Burns almost screwed his UFC career. Burns versus Brady just got a loss by unanimous decision. Tough match back in September. And you know how Brady looked. It was a freaking beast. Burns, who did Burns fight before Brady? Della Maddalena, who just won the welterweight title. And then who did he fight before that? Back in May of 2 years ago, 2023. Belal Muhammad, who was the former welterweight title holder. So Gilbert Burns has a path to hoe. I mean, he probably was wanting the title, obviously, in title contention this whole entire time for the past 2 to 3 years. Gilbert Burns, you got to give him some love here. Look what he did. Brady, Della Maddalena, Belal Muhammad goes the distance with him, and that's tough to do. Gets the win at the decision with Jorge Masvidal at the end of his career. And then Magny, he gets the win. He lost to Chimaev. These are the losses that you look here are freaking studs, dude. I think he's going to ground and pound and beat the ever-living shit out of Morales from Ecuador. At a plus 575, you take that bet right now before it gets lower. At welterweight, the number 8 versus number 12 in welterweight, plus 575 is the odds. Give me Gilbert Burns all freaking day. And that's how you do it. All right. I think that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Love you guys. God bless. Tip the waitress.